until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
I don't really know what he said at the end of that sentence, and I don't think he does either. That is our great, great President Donald J. Trump, soon to be number 47, it would seem, killing it on the debate stage last week against current resident-in-chief Joseph Robinette Biden. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Speechless. I'm your host, Kev Phares, 23-year-old conservative activist, host of Speechless, the radio show, and right here wherever you're watching from, whether that's Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, affiliated with Breakaway USA. And to make sure you don't miss a minute of any of the content, the fun, exciting, fascinating content I always cover here. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, share it with your friends, all that fun stuff. And so we're going to start off with the top five specific highlights or even lowlights from the debate, the most notable moments in the event that you didn't even watch the debate. Here are some of the most notable moments. And so I want to start off simply with number one. President Joe Biden was struggling during this debate. It was clear from the very, very beginning. And so once the debate started, we could all see from his little walking out on the stage, shuffle a little bit just to make sure he didn't fall or anything. Like I said, it was clear that he was struggling. In fact, CNN's Jake Tapper opened the debate by asking Biden about voters' top concerns, the economy and inflation. And Biden's answer shows us just how much he was wavering. Take a look and a listen to this clip from the debate right here.
Being here, let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach in your arm. You'll be all right.
Which is, from the beginning, is a lie. But also Biden is completely negating the question. The question was about the economy and inflation. And yes, while COVID has something to do with that, we are at a point now to where everything's open. You're reporting, Biden, record job growth, for which you brag about during this debate. And yet prices are still skyrocketing. Goods still cost more. Groceries, for some, unaffordable. Some have to choose between eating and driving to work. Keep listening.
The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out a position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of households where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of house.
What did he just say? I was at the kitchen table and I just didn't hear. No, the price of costs and goods and the gas. What? Look, I'll tell you all, I was at a bachelor party the night that this debate was happening. We turned the debate on, and I'll admit I had had a few drinks in me, and I was wondering if my alcohol tolerance had gotten so low that I couldn't even understand what a guy on the TV was saying. And then I realized, oh, that's just Joe Biden. Even the most sober Baptist in the world doesn't know what he's saying.
Housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. that we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for a insulin shot.
In fact, Donald Trump actually had legislation that did that much more naturally within the market without having to necessarily put a price ceiling on. And so Biden, that's not new. All you did was tear it down and then have to put it back together.
As opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you, President Trump.
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country, and we have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it.
Here's the thing, and so I can keep letting Trump go. We know what he's saying, and many, if you're watching this show, you know. All we really needed to hear out of Trump was, we had the greatest economy in the history of this country under my presidency. It's true. It's true. People were paying less in taxes. Goods costed less. We had the best economy. Everything we know when it comes to Joe Biden, it was either unintelligible or a flat out lie or a half truth or misleading. That's what's happening. What Trump is doing here is what everybody said Trump should have done in the debates in 2020. If you watched, Donald Trump did not interrupt. Donald Trump didn't come out swinging too hard. If you look at all the headlines, which we will look at a lot of headlines, almost none of them are about Trump's performance. We're going to constantly ask the question tonight of who won this debate, and the answer is seemingly clear. But the answer is clear not because the individual who won did exceptionally well. He did what was expected of him. He said all the right things, but it wasn't his best performance. No, it was because his opponent did exactly as we all knew he would. That's our first highlight. Just the opening right there, everybody. Just the opening shows us exactly what we're in for. Let's get to highlight number 2, an important one, I will say. And this is an instance that I thought very important. President Joe Biden falsely claimed during the CNN debate against former President Donald Trump on Thursday that no U.S. troops had died under his watch. This is a real thing that Biden tried to claim. When I'm old enough to remember Afghanistan. Take a look and a listen to this clip right here of Joe Biden lying flat out to the entire audience. Well, the viewing audience.
Had a notion that we were this safe country. Truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want.
You can do whatever you want. Jake Tapper, the idiot. But but I've never had anyone die under, no, Afghanistan, deaths. There's others too. In fact, there's been military spouses that have come out and said, my husband died. There was one I just saw. It was posted on Libs of TikTok. This is a digression because I literally saw it before, after I was done prepping for this show and I was getting ready. I was just scrolling through and I saw Libs of TikTok had a military wife that had told a story about how when she was going to collect her remains of her dead husband, Joe Biden, who usually ceremoniously is supposed to be at the receiving of dead soldiers' remains, would not show up. Didn't. I do want to be clear about too is that entire statement that he says that no troops died. The statement ignores the fact, absolute fact, that 13 U.S. service members were killed in a suicide bombing attack on the airport in Kabul during the 2021 U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. I wanted to be clear about the exact facts of the situation in case anybody wanted to try to debate me on that one. But that's not the only instance in which Joe Biden got very, very wound up about veterans and then blatantly says a lie regarding veterans. In fact, in this next clip, our number 3, Joe Biden perpetuates the mainstream media narrative that Donald Trump at one point called veterans suckers and losers, which all stemmed from a some kind of an Atlantic article in which one person said that Donald Trump said this. Donald Trump refutes it, in fact, in the debate as well. Let's take a look and listen to this clip, highlight number 3 right here.
Come in.
President
And it's
Biden,
a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War II cemetery, World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines.
It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. I love how he's just the little jabs. It's death by 1,000 cuts with Donald Trump in his speech.
Made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation.
Look at Joe's face right here is, oh, man. Like, that's the most, like, just disappointed, defeated look right there.
He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
4-star.
Come in.
This debate is absolutely hilarious. And once again, Donald Trump did exactly what he was supposed to do. Let Biden ramble. Let Biden ramble. Because at some point, he's not gonna be able to keep up. And that's what we've been seeing. That's what we've seen through a lot of the debate. In fact, he came out of the gate making little to no sense. In fact, there was even another instance of another highlight we'll cover here, that Joe Biden made a disturbing claim during the presidential debate, that saying that, quote, a lot of young women are being raped by their in-laws and their brothers and sisters. Interestingly enough, the remark came during a moment when the topic of abortion was being discussed. And then, unprompted, he brings up the issue of immigration, one that obviously is not one that he wins on. It's a fascinating moment. Everybody wants to talk about the clip that I played at the very beginning of this. Everybody wants to talk about that clip of Donald Trump saying, I don't know what he just said. I don't think he even knows what he just said, blah, blah, blah. Everybody likes that clip. Great clip. One of the funniest moments of the entire debate. This highlight right here, though, if you want to talk about mental competency, it's not just that he fumbles the bag in speaking of what Democrats call the stutter, which we all know is like early onset dementia. But it's not that. It's instances like this. And I'll explain why after we look and listen here.
Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, by it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women.
Look, there's so many young women who have been.
So Joe Biden gets asked a question about abortion. Seriously, Joe Biden gets a question about abortion. The one issue that Democrats consistently poll better with for the vast majority of Americans usually is abortion. Why? Because they have done such a good job of removing God from people's lives. That's the first thing. And also selling people on the idea that it's not actually abortion. It's not actually baby murder. It's not actually a procedure that takes the life of an unborn child. No. It's just reproductive rights. And you couldn't have a job or a career. You couldn't actually be an accomplished person if you had to be a mother. They sell that idea. And they've done an effective job of it to the point of which it can control elections. Many people attribute losses in 2022 due to the overturning of Roe v. Wade and fear-mongering sparked by Democrat campaigns nationwide. So, return to this clip. Joe Biden is asked a question regarding abortion, an instance in which he should absolutely be able to demolish Trump. Any half-baked politician could. However, Joe Biden isn't half-baked. He's burnt. Put a fork in him, he's done. And so he gets asked a question about abortion, and he goes on a tangent about you could have easily here as somebody who is pro-life, I could give you the Joe Biden answer to abortion. It's really simple. Most Democrats say it, and it's because they've done a good job of training people's brains. All he had to do get up there and say, look, as Joe Biden, I have always protected Roe v. Wade. We need to reinstate Roe as the law of the land. I'm working with my Congress to do it. We don't want MAGA extremists who hate women to come in and allow women to die because of pregnancies that are threatening the lives of mothers. That's what you do. You come out and you say that. It's a lie. It's a bogus answer. But if you want to win and you're Joe Biden, who already has shown that he has little to no moral code, then get out and say that. But instead, no. He doubles down into a point of which he starts bringing it about immigration, which is his worst, arguably, his worst policy point. Because people are dying because of Joe Biden's immigration policy, because of our open border. So I bring this back to what I said before I even started this video, or this clip, this highlight. Joe Biden, everybody wants to talk about his mental competency as his ability to be president. People want to talk about whether or not he's going to step down. We're going to talk about that here on this show soon. But you could talk about his mental competency. You could talk about the fact that he can't get a sentence out sometimes, that he slips and falls, that he doesn't know where he is. And all that is important to talk about just how bad he really is. But I believe we should have a higher standard for our politicians. That mental competency simply shouldn't just be, oh man, you know where you are at any given point. No, mental competency should also include knowing your policy points and being able to articulate them. If you want to see just how bad Joe Biden is, he can't even regurgitate the same 5 talking points about abortion that they've been saying for as long as Joe Biden has been in the Senate. That's how unfit for president he is. That's how unfit for president he is. It's absolutely insane to me. And I have more highlights here, actually, I want to get to. Number 5, I told you I'd have 5 different highlights. This one, I think, is just another lie and another perfect example of how Joe Biden is a liar. Like, he really can't, there's no better way to put it. Joe Biden is a liar, and I question as to whether or not it's a purposeful, intentional lie, or if he simply just doesn't know anymore. Maybe he's just getting so caught up in his lies, he really doesn't know. So take a look and listen to this instance in which Donald Trump and Joe Biden are asked about immigration, and we get to hear exactly what they think, at least in the best way that we can try to listen. Here's this right here.
A record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch, overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. Significantly, by the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was taking separating.
Did you guys hear that right there, what Biden just claimed about the Border Patrol? Listen one more time.
Number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. Significantly, by the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position.
Did they? In fact, actually, so many people were wondering about this because it doesn't seem real that the Border Patrol Union took to Twitter to clear the air. Pretty simply, they stated right here, to be clear, we never have and never will endorse Biden. So there's that. Keep listening to the rest of this clip.
That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. It's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue.
That's like simply untrue. Like, that's factually untrue. Look it up.
Continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in caravans.
President Trump.
Absolutely. And I got to say, this was the best response by Trump for the entire night. I mean, not only did he start off with the funniest line of the night, his response was clear, concise, and also hit against Biden on all key points of immigration that a significant number of Americans are feeling and reeling with the effects of. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you thought of this video through liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing. As always, I'm praying for you. God bless you. God bless America. And thank you so much for tuning in to Speechless.